Hi everyone, I would like to make a statement to switch parliament. Here's the background. In 2011, I made one claim about my true sexual orientation, which is homosexual, to switch authorities because I believe that LGBT rights as the fundamental rights, which have been legislated in the Constitution of Sweden, the Swedish authority have an obligation to protect the core values of LGBT rights constitutionally and build society and community against both homophobia and xenophobia. But on the contrary, after the authority knew that I am homosexual, they did not respect my fundamental rights as gay rights. Instead, they looked down upon these fundamental rights, which belong to me spontaneously, and the authorities began to use the telecommunication technologies to take me on this violence. So spying on my brain activities, meanwhile they have been utilizing the broadcast technologies to narrate my mental thoughts domestically and internationally. The Swedish authority misuses technologies to violate and invade my physical and mental privacy brutally. My life is transparent globally after the Swedish authority noticed that I am homosexual. These actions initiated by Swedish authorities should be considered homophobic and xenophobic crimes against innocent citizens' dignity and reputation, and they have been brutally interrupting my freedom of thought and consciousness. Sexual assault and verbal harassment occur frequently and constantly in my life, and has never stopped since the claim about the sexual orientation made. The chaos and catastrophe for the invasion of my privacy occurs everywhere, every time. These telecommunication technologies adapted for my body cause the overexposure of EMF, electrical magnificent field, and the overexposure can be hazardous to my health because there are several significant scientific evidence can verify that the high value of overexposure EMF can cause and link to serious disease as cancer and physical disease as depression. Moreover, the interference and harassment in my mental thoughts can cause PTSD. Therefore, these actions should be considered as a chronic capital punishment against the vitality of my privacy and individual security. The next topic is about the unconstitutionality. These actions issued by Swedish authority should be considered as a Nazism against homosexuality, ethnic group, and the freedom of consciousness without any interference. Specifically speaking, these actions have been violating and abusing all my fundamental rights in the Constitution of Sweden. The Swedish authorities have broken several crucial laws against my fundamental rights constitutionally, and these laws can be quoted. Article number 1. I should be guaranteed to foreign rights and freedoms in my relationship with public institutions. Freedom of expression, that is, the freedom of communication, information, and express thoughts, opinions, and sentiments, whether orally, pictorially, in writing, and in any other way. Freedom of assembling, that is, the freedom of organize and attend meetings for the purpose of information or the expression of opinion or for any other similar purpose or for the purpose of presenting artist work. Freedom to demonstrate, that is, the freedom to organize or take part in demonstrations in public place. No Article 3. No record in a public register concerning me as citizen may be based without consent solely on my opinions. There shall be no capital punishment for me. I should be protected against corporal punishment. I should not be subject to torture or medical intervention with the purpose of extorting or suppressing statements. Article 6. I should be protected in my relations with the public institution against any physical violation. Also, in cases other than case under Article 4 and 5, I should likewise be protected against body search, house search, and other such invasions of privacy, against elimination of mail or other confidential correspondence, and against eavesdropping and the recordings of telephone conversations or other confidential communications. In condition to what is laid down in paragraph 1, I should be protected in my relationships with the public institutions against significant invasions of my privacy. If this occurs without my consent and involves surveillance or systematic monitoring of the individual's personal circumstances, Article 12, no act of law or other provision may imply the unfavorable treatment of me because I belong to a minority group by reason of ethnic origin, color, or other circumstances, or on account of their sexual orientation, which I mean my sexual orientation. Article 13. No act of law or other provision may imply the unfavorable treatment of me on grounds of gender, unless the provision forms part of efforts to promote equality between heterosexual and homosexual, or relates to compulsory military service or other equivalent official duties. The legalization of my case I would like to advocate and I would like to inquire for. I should advocate that the Swedish Parliament has the obligation to create a judicial and legal system against the invasion of my privacy with fairness and justice. But all the dignitaries sitting here who have been voted by this constitutional democratic system should work for victims' case and petition with the criteria at the constitutional level, and choose that the complainant and the victim, as me, has no mental privacy which has been taken by the authorities' surveillance, should be considered seriously, illegally, and unconstitutionally. The justice should make the decision without any bias or prejudice, because I am convinced that everyone here has access to the complainant's mental thoughts and brain activities. In fact, it is justice's responsibility to promise that when the judge works on my case, my privacy as a fundamental right can be truly respected constitutionally, based on the performance of the judicial system, and the brutal invasion against my privacy should be terminated.